Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Dr. Morse's Protocols and Pairings for a Healthy Heart and Circulatory System. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You have joined the presentation listening using your computer's speaker system by default. You will have the opportunities to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. Our support team will do their best to answer as many questions as they can throughout the presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded and you will receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view the recording. This webinar is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Dr. Morse's is not responsible for individual decisions or actions taken based on this webinar. For personalized guidance, consult a healthcare professional. I would now like to introduce Jennifer Billingham. Jennifer?
Thank you, Colleen, and hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I am Jennifer, or Jen B, some of you may know me as, and I will be your guide for our Dr. Morse's protocols and pairings for heart health today. And for this presentation, I am joined by Colleen. She's our certified herbalist and director of education and innovation here at Dr. Morse, and she's going to be helping answer your questions throughout the webinar today. It's just her, so be gentle. She'll get to you as fast as she can. All right, and let's just jump right in and get started here. I know we have more people signing in now, but we want to remember why we are here, and it's because of this man, Dr. Morse. And his life's work has been to unlock the body's natural ability to heal by supporting its regenerative detoxification process, tongue tie already. And for over 45 years, Dr. Morse has been educating humanity on how to remove obstructions in the physical and energetic channels, connecting body, mind, and spirit through proper diet and the support of his transformative herbal supplement formulas. And really, I've seen it too. Throughout the years, we've witnessed some really profound health shifts by encouraging deep detoxification within the body through diet and the support of our herbal formulas. So our emphasis on education like these webinars empowers you to architect your unique health journey and make informed choices for your personal health goals. So we really want to thank you for being a part of the Dr. Morse family, where our collective journey towards vibrant health is a powerful force for global healing. Okay, and as I mentioned before, you can ask your questions using the Q&A feature on the webinar. It's in that little window there. Colleen is the only one answering questions today, so she will get to you as quickly as she possibly can. If we don't get to your questions in the chat feature, or if there's no time at the end of the webinar today, you can email your questions into info@dmhhc.com, or you can also use the chat feature on the website. And also good stuff as always at the end, so just make sure you stick around. We will have some discounts on select formulas in the cardiovascular health needs today, and a few others that will be available for 24 hours. We'll give you a chance to screenshot that at the end. And as Colleen mentioned, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be available in 24 to 48 hours after it has ended, and you will get an email notification. All right. I got to take a deep breath because I tend to talk very, very fast, and I want to make sure that we really take a moment to set the pulse, I guess, for this presentation. So the rate here. And we're going to be talking about some heart health protocols. Obviously, we're going to go over some, general maintenance review, what really is the basis of any protocol. Then we'll talk about some heart health protocols, support for the blood and the blood vessels. And then at the end, we're going to try something a little different in addition to the diet discussion, is to what can you do to create your own protocol? Like what questions do you need to ask yourself? So that's what we're going to get into. All right, so let's get to the start here. Okay, so, Colleen definitely took us through an in-depth anatomy and physiology about the heart and the circulatory system in our last webinar not too long ago. And just a quick review, like with the cells in our body group together forming tissues, and then these tissues form organs and glands, and they make up body systems. And there are different types of tissues in the body because they consist of cells that are similar in structure and function. And as an example, the heart is made up of, in part, by connective tissue and epithelial tissue and more. We're not going to get into that detail. And all these cells that make up these tissues require their own nutrition and energy to perform their functions efficiently, which includes elimination. And now with the cells, you have the blood. It's our life force. The blood carries nutrients and hormones and oxygen, just to name a few, to the tissues of the body. So the health of a cell, of our tissues, of our organs, are dependent on the function and the strength of the vascular system and the blood that flows through it. And the heart is at the center of it all. It pumps blood around the body as it beats to deliver that oxygen, deliver the nutrients and hormones that all of our other body systems need to function. And every cell, every system in the body is connected, to others, just so they can complete their functions. And what we experience as symptoms can stem from another weakness in the body, and that may not always be so obvious to us at one particular time. And because that, we got to remember that detoxification is not a process of treatment. It's not even about deficiency so much. It's the process of getting to the root cause and understanding how your body's systems are connected together, at that cellular level is really a crucial component to understanding detoxification. Well, some organs and glands might need some extra support during your process. We still clean and strengthen the body as a whole. You have to move lymph. You have to get the kidneys online to filter the way they should. And that deep cleaning of our tissues is really at the root of it all. So I want you to keep this in mind as you're looking at the protocols that we're going to go over, and then we'll keep it in mind near the end that no matter what health ailment led you to explore and find Dr. Morse and discover his message, which no doubt resonated with you, it's very clear that acidosis is the culprit. And to revitalize the body, you have to move lymph and you have to eliminate properly. I don't think we can say it enough. And to ideally sustaining the body with raw living foods and these herbs, that will help supply the body with the energy it needs to detoxify. All right. There it goes. Oh, it didn't change for a second. Talk about heart palpitations. Geez. Well, let's start getting towards the heart of this presentation. I wrote that little joke down just because I'm a dork, but we will get started here into the protocol portion. So we're going to cover the basics, no matter, again, what your health ailment and your detoxification goals. This is important, this section. And if you're new to Dr. Morse in the community, this portion is welcome and it's very important to you. And for those of you that are quite familiar with the fundamentals and the basics, thanks for indulging me for just a moment. And it's great that you're here. And I really, really love how a lot of you support one another in the Telegram and Facebook communities. And we're just really helping so many souls that need it. So again, really appreciate it. We're going to take a moment to just go over these basics one more time. All right, that really having that successful detoxification process and that protocol starts with a strong foundation, something to support the GI tract, the endocrine system, the kidneys, and the lymphatic system. And all of our foundational formulas are designed to support any herbal protocol. And then also, of course, diet. That's the importance of appropriate food choices and food combining. And we are going to talk a little bit more about that later. And just a quick glimpse at our, we could call this a general maintenance, and just the basics, that foundation, the GI formula that you select according to your needs, kidney and bladder, lymph drainage, and endocrine daily. We'll touch a little bit about where to start on what formulas later too. And preceding our protocols, one more thing, you can see on the left-hand screen there's those 4 formulas with the kidney, lymph, endocrine, and GI. And then these are some other formulas you're going to see pop up in these heart health protocols a little bit late in just a moment. And just remember too that the protocols that follow kind of hone in on weaknesses you might see related to the heart or blood vessels or the blood itself. But they don't really take into consideration other body weaknesses, some that an individual might be dealing with. So keep that in mind. And that, again, that's a little teaser of something we're going to try to look at in a little bit. All right, so now we're going to take a look at protocols for overall heart health. And the heart, just as a little recap, is a muscle with two sides and four chambers. The upper chambers are called atria and the bottom chambers are called ventricles. The heart relaxes and contracts. It pumps blood as it passes through the valves in the heart and leaving each chamber, and then blood circulates through the body before circulating back to the heart to repeat the process. And the nervous system connects with the heart via the vagus nerve as part of the autonomic nervous system to control cardiac muscle contraction. And healthy heart function requires an important balance of minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. And that helps signal normal cardiac contract and relaxed rhythm. So these, I'm sure many of you are probably saying, I know what these abnormal heart rhythms can feel like. They are really unique sensations, kind of like fluttering in the chest. Can get fatigued, even lightheadedness, shortness of breath, even some discomfort and pain in the chest, all kind of pretty unpleasant and unnerving. And that being said, a lot of that should not be ignored. I mean, that's your body telling you something, and sometimes they're so severe you do need to seek medical attention. So I like to remind people that, even Dr. Morse has said emergency medicine is great. So there are times you have to seek it, but also be very aware that you're getting some signs, some signals from your body. It's got its own language, so pay attention to that. But to reinforce, a healthy heart function, we want to make sure that we include support for the nervous and endocrine systems because of their connections in heart and vascular function, and also the transportation of hormones. So this is what a protocol to support heart health might actually look like. Again, not really considering other weaknesses, but you always have that GI, kidney, and lymph. And to support the endocrine system, we're going to shift towards the adrenal support formula for a time because of the adrenal gland's role in producing hormones that help influence heart rate and contractions that increase the blood flow. Yes, the thyroid has some involvement too, but for right now, we're going to focus on the adrenal for this one. And kind of like when you have fight or flight, you know what I'm talking about, when those blood vessels dilate and, blood gets flowing a little bit stronger. And then we round it out with the strong heart, the blood circulation, and the brain and nervous systems formulas, just because they provide that additional support to the heart tissue and function. Right now we're going to talk about the blood, and specifically red blood cells, or erythrocytes. They carry oxygen, gases, and nutrients through the blood. And our blog mentioned a few fun facts about red blood cells, that they make up 45 to 50% of our blood volume, and they live for about 20 days. All right, well, the bone marrow produces red blood cells, and their production is stimulated by a hormone called erythropoietin, abbreviated to be EPO. And the kidneys produce erythropoietin to stimulate the bone marrow to make red blood cells. And then the liver and the spleen destroy damaged or dying red blood cells. And that process releases iron. So did you know all that? I needed a little refresher since my last anatomy course, but we focus a lot on, kidney elimination, but obviously there's so many more reasons to support the kidneys too. So, and we also get a lot of questions about blood cell counts, and we'll talk a little bit about that, just in considering what too many or too few means. Think about it. Too many red blood cells are produced, that thickens the blood. You could be at risk of maybe forming blood clots. You got to think of your other weaknesses in the body and the congestion too. Well, what if you have too few red blood cells, like they're not being produced? That means there's fewer in circulation. So that limits the body's ability to transport oxygen and nutrients. And that's why, if your counts are a little bit lower, yeah, you could be, if you're not carrying that oxygen and nutrients that it needs, you could be feeling a little fatigued or dizzy. And then, again, the minerals, the utilization, what you actually need for your heart rhythm, you can feel some abnormalities there. So it's all still acidosis, lymph congestion, all of that affects the function and structure of cells. And red blood cells are still no exception to that. So because the blood is the transporter of essential elements that our body systems need, and they have that really important role. And some symptoms say it all, and sometimes you may not even have all the symptoms, but to really consider, supporting your blood, supporting the kidneys and the endocrine system, and even your immune system, in its natural functions, you can help reinforce that normal red blood cell production. So what would it look like for just general, blood support and whatnot? You'd still have your GI, your kidneys, and your lymph. Selected the endocrine daily formula here, but we also introduced the blood support formula, and that may seem obvious just because of the name, but it is because, the red blood cells transport, the nutrients and the hormones, oxygen, etc. But also we recommend the liver skin formula because of its role in a red blood cell's life cycle and the liver's many roles otherwise. And then as well as the bone and connective tissue support because it is a cellular proliferator and it does give that additional immune support too. And then our last heart and cardiovascular health protocol we're going to look at is for blood vessel support. And when we think about that, you've heard Dr. Morse talk about, not just plaquing on insides of walls, but also think about the structure of a blood vessel and, the wastes that accumulate in the interstitial spaces that compromise the blood vessels that can constrict them further. Don't just think about that plaque that's drilled into us so much. You got to think beyond that and think about the interstitial spaces and lymph congestion. Well, now you're thinking of the blood vessel structure, also think about the nature of the blood. And we just talked about blood thickening and whatnot. So let's go a little deeper and think about blood clotting. Blood clotting is a natural response that prevents excessive bleeding when a blood vessel is damaged. Blood clots form when the blood thickens and it clumps together. And in a normal clotting response, which is coagulation, that involves an interaction between platelets and proteins that work together to prevent blood loss. So you cut yourself, platelets adhere to the cut vessel, and then proteins form a mesh to hold that platelet plug in place. And in a healthy response, the body eventually dissolves the clot over time. Well, I think we all get that how acidosis affects the cell's ability of function and the processes of the body, and how that can affect how blood clots may dissolve and that they may not always dissolve properly. They can break off and travel through the body, and that's not good. And then you have some other abnormalities and weaknesses in the body that can lead to clotting being a problem and just exacerbated further with other weaknesses in the body. So poor blood and lymph flow and other structural weaknesses or obstructions in blood vessels they just complicate this process further. So again, that interstitial fluid surrounds the space of the cell. That fluid contains electrolytes, amino acids, and hormones. That's just a little bit of it. But it also contains acids and byproducts of cellular waste. And the interstitial fluid filters into the lymph capillaries. So you can see why it is important to keep your lymph moving to support the blood vessel integrity. And elimination is so important. And it goes through all the tissues of the body too. So vitamin and mineral absorption, utilization, they're so important in so many physiological actions, and the clotting process is no exception. So an herbal protocol to support healthy blood clotting processes includes cleaning and strengthening the GI tract to promote better nutrient absorption, because we do need that calcium and the potassium and whatnot. And it also assists the body systems involved in cell production, and again, that elimination in the vessel structure and blood flow. I will mention, because I bet we get this comment a lot, and maybe Colleen, you're probably getting it even now, but people ask about their blood thinners and whatnot, and we don't recommend just abruptly stopping chemical medications, especially like with blood thinners. Your doctor's probably, or your prescriber, is putting you through blood work and all of that, and as you change your diet and you work with the herbs and you continue to support these areas of weakness and clean and strengthen, those will they'll just titrate that. And you're showing your prescriber a thing or two, and go ahead and show off a little bit, but just don't stop it abruptly, okay? And again, the Fab4 creates the basic structure of this protocol, and we incorporate the ultimate immune to support that healthy blood clotting process, and then also the blood support. You could also add the blood circulation formula in here too. Generally, like case-by-case basis, we might say with a particular clotting issue that's moving through the body, we might hold on that, but definitely support with the blood support, ultimate immune, and consider your other body system weaknesses too. All right, now got a little time. I want to make sure we definitely address this and talk a little bit more about, putting all this together. Let's assess every body system we've covered so far, give you some questions to guide yourself, just some basics to help you kind of choose your formulas, because we get a lot of that. Like, how do I know what GI formula I need? Where do I start with the kidney or the lymph? What else can you suggest for this issue? And I want to, and I know Dr. Morse does, all the staff does, will give you the power to put the questions in your hands, and you can ask and you can assess your body functions too. And of course, we'll always need to consider, the foods and, our poor habits, how that contributes to the degeneration of our cells and how that affects our body's function. So keep that in mind about your habits as you're working toward building, a good lifestyle to help you with your detoxification process. And then again, paying attention to that language. Your body is telling you things. You might think it's minor, but it's worth noting. Pay attention, because it's definitely something you want to keep on your radar. Okay, so let's take a look at, we'll start with the, GI, the kidney, and the lymph, because then we'll start getting into something a little bit more complex. Oh, my little arrows don't show up, but that's okay. That's what those little question marks are. They're just little arrows. All right, so GI support, let's start with that one. How often do I move my bowels? Ask yourself that. And we have the guide on the website as far as when to use a GI loose versus a GI super mover. I put the little numbers there so you can see the, transition from the number to the name. And you want to make sure that your diet's doing a lot of the work as far as regulating your bowel movements. But yeah, use the GI formulas to help support and get you regulated, and then just adjust accordingly as you go with your detoxification process. And normally after a couple weeks, we recommend, getting started with that GI broom and getting some deep cleaning, getting that mucoid plaque, all of that junk out that we've tend to accumulated for that fermentation to really give us a lot of other issues and upset that gut microbiome. So you can even consider adding the parasite micro in here too. But just select your GI formula according to your movements and adjust accordingly. As far as the kidney and bladder formula, we recommend, if you're brand new to this, start with the kidney and bladder restore. And as you work up, you can start pairing some of these formulas together, either tincture and capsule, take 2 formulas. Particularly, compromised cases with kidneys, you might need 3. I've seen Dr. Morse do that before. But overall, start with the kidney and bladder restore. Make sure you stay, really, really good with your diet. And with the lymph drainage formulas, the gentle movers is an excellent formula to start with. Some people even prefer to, stay really strong with their diet, get the kidneys filtering a little bit before they even begin a lymph drainage formula. But if time is of the essence and you really need to get after your lymph system, definitely work with the lymph formula, and also try to work with 2 kidney and bladder formulas. Now let's talk about the endocrine system, because the endocrine daily formula is a good support for all of the endocrine glands, but questions again we get, and I totally can relate, is how do I know what glands need some extra support? And if you can't get that good eye photo, you don't really know where to start. Think about some questions you would ask yourself as it relates to, like you hear Dr. Morse in his videos, rattling off these formulas based off of, what some people are telling him. So think about your energy. That is impacted by the thyroid and adrenal glands. Think about, are you feeling jittery or restless? Do you have neurological issues? Maybe some weak hair, skin, or nails? I mean, you can take a screenshot of this if you need to. Think about, see that calcium utilization involved under the parathyroids and the thyroid. Think about how that affects your heart. The regulating the heart rate and all of that. Consider the pituitary, the master gland. That's involved in irregularities in our menstrual cycles, in reproductive issues in male or females. All of these can affect our mood too if they're, not, operating sluggishly, or they're overactive, even with periods of fatigue. And at the bottom there, you'll see some formulas that we would recommend you could work with to support each of these areas. Should you take all 3 at the same time? I recommend rotating, spend a month with each of them. I wouldn't say, go nuts and take them all at the same time, but because you're in this for the long haul, you're not in this to rush this process. You want to learn and really enjoy it. And I want to make sure we have time to get through all of these slides. So let's look at the liver and the pancreas, just as far as digestion. And you can pair these two together. I personally like pairing these two together. You can even with the parasite microbe, but that bloating, if you have difficulty digesting, especially if you see undigested foods, look at that pancreas formula. You get gas. Skin also, you want to make sure you're sweating. That goes back to the thyroid as well. But if it's particularly dry, think about how, acidosis is dehydration as well. So you want to hydrate from within. So there's some other formulas there. Go ahead and screenshot it. If you can answer yes to any of these questions, definitely consider working with one of these formulas listed below as part of your detoxification journey. And then we've got the heart and the nervous system. We just talked about the heart a little bit more with some examples on how to support the heart, the blood, and your blood vessel integrity. And those are all listed there, those formulas. And going back to the nervous system, that brain fog, difficulty focusing, that's connected to the GI tract, that's connected to the endocrine system. So working with brain and nervous systems formulas along with something for the circulatory system and the endocrine and the kidneys is always a good idea too. So if you answer a yes to any of these, at some point start working with some of these formulas as part of your herbal protocol. And then, like I said before, we wanted to touch briefly on, the diet and the importance of foods. And, Dr. Morse does tell us all the time, keep it simple, eat the foods we're designed to eat that really optimize that digestion, absorption, and utilization, and we avoid fermentation. We got a lot of gunk we got to clean out. So raw living foods, they're not cooked or chemically altered. That's what we're designed to consume. And we really are not so much, I guess you could say, there was a quote, you aren't what you eat, but you are what you assimilate. I think that was something I read with Dr. Haas, and I can thank Colleen for pointing me in that direction. But just keep your food choices simple, combine your foods properly, optimize your digestion and that fermentation in the gut, and that's why you're getting that gas and nastiness. You need to hydrate your cells and your body through these, fresh fruits, veggies, and vegetable juices. And just remember, Colleen, if you have that link handy, the food combining, just refer to that food combining chart to make sure you're combining your foods properly. So just to recap, if you're new to Dr. Morse's formulas, use some of those questions on some of those slides to help guide you in your formula selections. And we're still here to support you. You can email in, call in, or utilize the chat feature on the website. And also Dr. Morse is always a wealth of information on his videos. I like to rotate through the formulas every month or two, and that's a good thing to do. Just always remember to keep that something for the GI, the kidneys, and the lymph and endocrine system going. And your body will reveal plenty as you dig deeper, and you can always rotate your formulas further. And what you've all been waiting for, take a screenshot of this code and the formulas that will be on sale for the next 48 hours. And again, that this webinar recording will be available in another 24 to 48 hours, and you will receive an email around that time too. And you can also visit our previous webinar recordings by going to drmorses.com and selecting Body System Webinars on the Learn tab. And you can see any upcoming webinars we have too. I don't think we have any time. I apologize. I hope this was informative, and I hope you all enjoyed this. And look forward to hearing about what you all accomplish on your own personal, health journeys. And thank you again for spending time with us, and be well.
Thank you, Jen. Just wanted to say Jen is offering consultations now through our website. So I'm going to does 30-minute virtual consultations. So I wasn't able to get to everyone's questions, and you can always email your questions to info@dmhhc.com and we can speak to you there. But if you're interested in speaking with Jen directly about your health concerns, here is a link to book a consultation with Jen. It's in your chat now. And again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Jen, for your wealth of information. She has been working with this brand and with Dr. Morse for many, many years, and it's just always incredible to hear her perspective on how to support yourselves with these herbal protocols. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, see you all next time.
Yeah, bye, everyone.